I wanted to know the bad parts. I wasn't so much interested in the fame. Okay. I wanted to know, okay, what happened when you was on the break of being broke?
Okay.
Because that's what's going to be, that was going to sustain you. And that's what's sustaining you now. It's more or less if you know what's going to happen when you get to the end of that road, rather than just stopping and just keeping going. Everybody that I have read their books, from the great Fred Smith here, all the way down. I read a lot of Warren Buffett and all the way down before some of the famous guys, even the guy that owned Chick-fil-A all the way down.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be
the journey. The journey.
New sheriff in town, and his name is
the journey.
Journey.
This thing is bigger than Nino Brown. This is
the journey. The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The journey. The journey. The journey. The journey.
Welcome back to another episode of The Journey. I'm your host, Larry Robinson, and today we have a true Memphis icon. I'm talking about an icon in the catering business like no other. And I got a little story that I'm going to tell you at some point in the show about this brother and how I really met him. But first, let's go to our quote. Our quote comes from the great Shonda Rhimes, the show creator, the Netflix innovator. I mean, we all know the work that she's done, but check this out. This is her quote. Be brave, be amazing, be worthy. The brother that I have, Brother Odell Sanders, he's brave, he's amazing, and he's damn sure worthy. So listen, straight out of North Memphis, but the family moved to Westwood. This brother is a serious visionary. I'm talking about, man, when I got here in 96 into Memphis, he was on something else, and I loved it, and he really inspired the entrepreneurship spirit in me. Committed family man, father too, but listen, we're going to get to the pioneer, Brother Odell Sanders. How are you, sir?
Doing great, Mr. Robinson.
Man, don't call me Mr. Robinson.
Well,
That's my daddy. That's my daddy.
Okay, Larry.
But I need to call you Mr. Sanders, brother, because I'm telling you, you have been an amazing man since the moment I met you. Right. But listen, we're going to start at the beginning. Tell me about the early days, who was in the family, who was in the household. You can go back to North Memphis if you want to.
Well, both of my parents were in the house, my mother and father.
Okay.
And I actually come from a family of entrepreneurs. My father started an investment company in 1975.
Wow.
He did that, and so he did a number of different businesses, but that part right there he had until his death.
Okay.
And so I was always around entrepreneurs. I had uncles in the construction business, farmers. I did farming in Mississippi, learned how to do soybean farming and all kind of stuff.
Wow. Now, how many brothers and sisters?
I have no sisters. I have all brothers. It was five, a total of five. My baby brother died in his sleep in his senior year in college.
Oh, man.
Right. And I have four brothers.
Okay, four brothers. What's the brothers? Who are the brothers?
Reginald, Michael, Orlando, and myself.
Reginald, Michael, and Orlando. All right. So let me ask you, who outside of your father and mother and those in the household had an influence on young Odell Sanders?
Well, I go back to my father, but actually, to a gentleman in the hotel business. When I was 14, I was washing dishes, and I got a job in the hotel business. And so I kept seeing these nice shops.
You've been working since you was 14 years old?
14.
Wow. What made you start working at 14?
I was eager. In summertime, I always went to the country. That's what we called it back then, Mississippi, and my uncle's farm. And my cousin was glad for me to come because they got a break to play baseball, and I got a chance to experiment driving tractors in the field. They say you can drive till you get tired. You can't run over nothing.
What decision did you make as a young person that ended up having a lifelong impact, even though you may not have known it at the time?
Well, at the time, I always was goal-driven and very determined, and I wanted to always try my hand. I figured that I could win. It wasn't a long length of time of how you do it for us being in business. And I stayed in the industry, the hotel industry, because I've been working in the food and beverage industry for 50 years now.
Okay.
And so I just stayed in and said, hey, I'll try my own hand at catering.
Okay.
From the standpoint from my background in the food industry.
Okay.
And I moved back from Dallas, Texas in 1985. I was working for a 5-star hotel that's still there now. It's the Lobes Antidote.
Okay,
on
yeah,
Stemmers
I know the
Freeway.
Lobes Antidote,
And when I moved back in 85, I moved back to start my catering company, which I did in 88. I worked it for a large corporation here that owned it all of the catering in town, Midland Food Service, which was owned by Coca-Cola.
Okay. Man, how different are you from the person you dreamed you'd be?
Very different.
Okay, who'd you dream you would be as a kid?
Well, as a kid, there was a lot of people, because I actually did a lot of studying. One thing that I did coming up, I really studied the great. Anybody that did something, I wanted to know their pitfalls.
Okay.
So I studied a lot of people off of Forbes magazine.
Okay.
I also subscribed to then, and this is now Black Enterprise.
Right.
And I was actually able to meet a lot of people that did what I did, that invited me to come to Atlanta and talk to them.
Really?
Right.
Wow. So you literally, as a young person, would watch other people and
Correct.
read about other people and study other people.
Right.
So you wouldn't make their mistakes.
Correct. I read books. I still do.
Okay.
You know, like I wanted to know. I wanted to know the bad parts. I wasn't so much interested in the fame. I
Okay.
wanted to know, okay, what happened when you was on the break of being broke?
Okay.
Because that's what's going to be. That was going to sustain you, and that's
Right.
what's sustaining you now. Is more or less if you know what's going to happen when you get to the end of that road, rather than just stopping and just keeping going. And everybody that I have read their books,
Right.
from the great Fred Smith here, all
Right.
the way down. I read a lot of Warren Buffett, and all the way down before some of the famous guys, even the guy that owned Chick-fil-A, all the way down.
So you didn't even relegate it to black successful people. You studied everybody.
I studied everybody.
Okay.
Robert Johnson, when he first got his first $1 billion,
Right.
became a billionaire. I wanted to know how he did it, because I knew it wasn't just simple. He just came up and just became a billionaire.
Right.
I wanted to know his pitfalls.
Right. Wow, man, I didn't know that. So when did you know you was gonna be okay? At what point in your life could you look in the mirror and be like, you know what, I can do this thing called life. I'm all right. I'm good.
Well, I knew one thing based on my faith. Number one, that is what I rely on. And then number two is with faith and discipline and enduring. Those are three very strong parts that I rely on. You got to endure. And if you stay in the game long enough, okay, you will endure and you will weather the storm.
Right.
And so I knew from reading all those guys' books,
Right.
from the standpoint, all of them was on the break of stopping. But what kept them going, they went back and looked in the mirror the next day and said, I'm gonna try it one more day. And that's when they became icons.
Wow. Okay. What's your why, man? Why you get up every day and fight the good fight?
Motivation. I love challenges. I love being in the game with it on that part, as well as I like meeting people, seeing people happy. And what I do, I don't just do it. I'm just not so much driven for money, but I also like to use my business as a calling and giving back in the community from that standpoint, because I know if I'm just sitting there just worried about making money, I'm not just going to be happy and fruitful from that standpoint there.
So it ain't all about the dollar.
No, it's about the challenge, and it's about the challenge and where you want to go in life. And right now, I feel that I have done it out of 35 years.
Right.
I never put a limit on anything, nor a time, because when you put a time on it, that's when you stop.
Right.
So I never put a time on anything. I have people ask me all the time, when you gonna retire?
Right.
I said, Warren Buffett is 92.
Wow. Okay. That says a lot. Well, listen, every brother, and I'm sure you growing up in the South, being in the South, going down to Dallas and everything else, when was that moment you realized you was a black man? Hold on for a second. Listen, we're going to come right back on the journey where Brother Sanders is going to share with us when he realized he was a black man. I need you to stay right there. This is Larry Robinson with Odell Sanders on The Journey on the Kazukia Network.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
Success in life is not a straight line. There are twists and turns in everyone's life, and the more you know about their story, the more you'll understand the process. Kazuki Media Group proudly presents The Journey, a show that features successful black men in Memphis telling their stories of their lives and the ups and downs they've encountered on their ultimate road to success. We believe The Journey will encourage young men and help them see that life is a journey. Watch The Journey, hosted by me, Larry Robinson. Brought to you by the Kazuki Media Group in partnership with the Delta Boulé. Welcome back to The Journey. We have brother Odell Sanders here from Sanders Catering. But listen, let me tell you how I met this brother. So I got to Memphis back in '96, and I was in pharmaceuticals. I was in the pharmaceutical business, but I had a specialty only talking to psychiatrists, and it was a 3-state region. So I had to move. I always had to move. I found this black-owned business that was super professional, and they did everything. I mean, they brought the food in, they left, they came and picked it up. I mean, these brothers were amazing. Plus, they came in bow ties. They had red bow ties. The women were in bow. Everybody's in bow. Everybody. I mean, it was like every time I provided a lunch for one of my doctors, it was like a 5-star, 6-course meal. But nevertheless, and he was the proprietor of that business. And to this day, man, I am so honored because you were a big part of my success, whether you know it or not. Because everybody's like, hey, Larry Robinson, he do it right.
That's all.
So you've been in business a long time. Let me ask you one thing. What's your superpower? What's that one thing that Odell Sanders does better than anybody else?
Well, I think what you have to do is what we practice on is we do not take service light, for number one. And number two, we also look at that everybody's our boss. We are not the boss. Anyone is paying us as the boss. So the boss has the right to tell us what they like to do.
Right.
So therefore, we try to make the boss happy, the client that's paying us, I'm saying, that's the boss. We try to make them as happy as we possibly can and make it light on them. And if we can make their clients say nice things for them, then we know it benefit them as well as us.
Oh, wow. So service is a very small thing. Service is not really complicated as people want to think that it is. Service is being nice, speaking to a person, in and out, being manageable, and then if you're wrong, just say you're wrong. I believe in that. So if you were walking down the street and you were walking past a person and they turned to you and said, Mr. Sanders, who are you? What would you tell them?
Well, I would tell them I'm the same person that I've always been, from childhood even to adult. I'm not a different person. I don't let things nor material stuff change me from that standpoint. I'm the same all the way down the line. And I try to treat my fellow man or woman the same way. I don't look at big U's, low U's. Everybody's equal.
Okay. So how would you describe that if someone asking you, who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah, who are you?
Who am I? I would tell them that I'm a very nice person.
Okay.
For number one. And number two, I'm someone that you don't know who I am because you may have met someone that's bad and I'm not that person.
Okay. How would you define your level of focus?
My focus is very strong. I mean, I lock in and key on stuff because, like I say, I'm driven from the standpoint of challenges. And if it's a challenge or something that I want to do, I don't let it go until it's done.
Okay. I'm gonna go back to the question I asked you in the first segment. When did you realize that you were a black man?
Well, I knew all along that I was a black man, but one thing that changed my whole dynamic moving back to Memphis is when I moved back to Memphis in 1985, which I moved back to start a business. Memphis was still a ghost town, what I called it.
Right.
So therefore, it was things being done in Memphis that was not pleased in the eyes of other major cities like Dallas and different stuff.
Right.
And so people treated people different here to a certain degree.
Okay.
And so with you owning your own and having your own, you were a little bit more different from that standpoint because you had a little bit more control and leverage of your destiny than someone else telling you about your destiny. So therefore, and in doing that, from that standpoint of me being a black man, I know the power was in controlling my destiny and not letting anyone else control it.
Wow. How much of that did you learn from your mother and your father?
Pretty good bit of it, but also too, mentors, as they use the word now. I learned it from mentors in the industry as well as studying from the standpoint of it and talking to people. My industry put me in a position to where that I was around a lot of influenced people. And the people that I was around, that's one reason I stayed in the industry.
Okay.
Because I always stayed around and worked around billionaires, multimillionaires, and all kind of stuff in the hotel industry. So therefore, you learned. And you learned them, they learned you, and they did nice things.
I'm sure you built a lot of relationships just knowing you as a person.
Right.
Oh, wow. Okay. Tell us about childhood, man. I mean, was you a basketball player, football player?
Well, no, I wasn't a basketball player. I hung around sports, football. I was more or less like, if you want to call it back in the day, the trainer. They call it the water boy, but I did pretty much. But I pretty much did everything as the trainer, the water boy, because back then too, I had the keys to the concession. So everybody knew who I was, because when it came to concessions, I had the keys to the concessions, and when the concessions opened for the game, guess who was running the concessions?
Man, you've been in food forever. Wow, that is amazing. Talking about knowing your purpose and your calling.
Right.
And you just followed it on through.
This kept falling on through.
What's some of your fondest memories, man, of you in your childhood? What's one of them things that if you thinking about that moment that puts a smile on your face, what comes to mind?
I think well, there's a lot of things that it is, but just my fondest memories is really just more or less of just being me, being me, because if you be yourself, others may want to pattern after you and stuff like that. And I have always been the person that, like I said, just stay even keel from that standpoint. And then a lot of people like to follow your pattern from that standpoint, because I was always an encourager, because some people didn't get encouraged, and I was a self-motivated encourager.
Right.
And therefore a lot of people in school, they love to hang around me because they know that I would tell them when they said they couldn't do it, I told them to stop saying that you can do it.
Man, that's powerful. Very powerful. So, high school, did you think about college? Did you go to college?
Yeah, I went to junior college, Northwest Junior College, but my college days, they probably, saying it on air. When I went to college, I was working in hotels and I was traveling in the industry. I was traveling with hotels. And I did go to a junior college and I did finish it, but by me staying in that industry brought so much opportunity to me it really, if I went to college or not, it wouldn't have been a problem because I stayed in that industry.
Now, knowing you had a really strong family, how has that impacted you as a father, and how does that your relationship with your kids?
I mean, it impacts greatly because number one, your kids pattern after you, and I do the same thing as my father did with me and my brothers. All of my brothers knew Dad was an entrepreneur. He started an investment company. Plus, he was a federal government employee. On that part right there also too. So therefore we watched things that he did, and so a lot of us really actually pattern after him on things that he done from his investments and stuff like that in his company. So my children is actually doing the same thing, because with me, it's not so much that they want to be in the food business, but it's just the other knowledge that I say, well, granddaddy did that, then your uncle's doing that, then well, you might not want to deal with what Dad doing, but in the circle, it's there, so it's in your blood. That's what I tell my kids. It's in your blood. I say it's going to come out, so it's coming out my sons now.
So, what did your mother? I ain't heard you really speak of your mom, but what did your mom give you?
love and tough love, good love, and the determination too, because mom was a no quitter too. My mother, when she started at the Defense Depot, she was a federal government employee too. My mother started out in the warehouse when women's could not do, from the standpoint of being promoted. Then as time went on, and I think the congressman then was Harold Ford Jr., and he opened the doors up for women's at the IRS in the depot, and my mother rose in the depot, in the ranks in the depot.
Wow, okay. What role did Memphis play in your development?
Memphis was more or less twofold, because I always stayed out of Memphis. I mean, from the standpoint, I got a lot of my insight and knowledge and stuff from really just being out of Memphis and then coming back in Memphis. Because being honest with you, a lot of people that I knew and stuff like that, they didn't think like how I was thinking about entrepreneurship. A lot of them didn't even know what the word was.
Right.
And then even when I went into business, just like plenty of other people, when they go into business, the people you know are not your cheerleaders. I was my own cheerleader.
Ooh.
I was my own cheerleader for years.
Wait a minute, hold on. Say that again.
The people that you know that you say that you know are not your cheerleaders. People was actually looking for me to fail, but what they didn't know, I was a no-fail guy. So what they were doing, they were looking on the outside, looking on the inside. You know how people do. They say, well, oh yeah, but see what they didn't know, the determination in me and the willpower, it didn't have anything to do with them, it had to do with me. So they learned over 35 years of me being in business, the same critics learned, and they learned, oh, okay. And I also too was able to encourage them, because you know your critics, so I don't have no bad blood. What I do is I educate. Not hate, educate.
Okay, explain that for me.
Educate from the standpoint is, you know your critic, your critic said, well, Larry, you can't do it. Well, you don't go back and smack your critic in the face. What you do is be nice to your critic, like the good book said, turn the other cheek. And then when your critic come back trying to do something, you encourage your critic and say, you can do it. And your critic end up doing a little something, gateway open for them.
So you actually educate the haters.
Educate them.
Okay. Wow.
Correct.
Man, you a different kind of brother, man. And I'm sure you've heard that.
Plenty of times, right. You're right. Plenty of times out there, because another thing about me too is which a lot of people don't do. See, I'm not afraid to share. I don't feel that one person can do it. And I always share the story. If you look around the city of Memphis, McDonald's is everywhere.
Right.
Chick-fil-A is everywhere. Burger King is everywhere. They ain't fighting.
Right. You're exactly
right. But
right.
they do know something that you don't know.
Yeah.
So you should be trying to know what they know, because when McDonald's, Burger King, Chick-fil-A, Crystals, and I'm just using them as an example,
right,
they ain't fighting.
Not at all.
When one change, the other four change.
Right.
So that means that they know something you don't know. But what we do as African Americans, we fight. We feel like if you open up a catering company, then okay, guess what? I'm mad at you because you got a catering company. I'm not mad at you. You gonna open 1,000 of them because you have your place, I have my place. But what you should learn is, if you don't have what you think you have, which I have done in the past and still do, you may not have the equipment I got.
Okay.
So I said, brother, so you don't make us all look bad, come over here and get this equipment to keep your food hot.
Okay. Now, how do people respond when you were giving like that?
Well, a lot of times there are resentment from them because they have never been around and seen that. That's an education process too. You're educating people to understand that. And what happened is, once they see you doing it and you doing it to them, over time, what they end up doing is they reciprocate it to somebody else. I have seen that.
Right.
But if you don't know it, you don't do it.
Right. That's right. Now, you mentioned Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Burger King, all that. You ever think about opening your own restaurant?
No.
Why?
Never did. People ask me that all the time. Matter of fact, Matter of fact, when I met you in '96 and I first started, people asked about a restaurant. I really don't even want to open up a restaurant at all. I've worked in fine dining restaurants, running them for hotels and stuff, but that has never been something that I want to do.
What about it turned you off, I guess to say?
Well, I mean, number one is a lot of long hours dealing with it, and it's a little bit more complicated. And, you know, doing what I do, there's a lot of more latitude and control with it because you can cut it on. Right. Catering company, you can cut it up as high as you want, and you can bring it down as low as you want.
Okay. Any regrets? Anything that you'd be like, man, if I could do that one thing over again?
No, I really don't have any regrets. I thank God for letting me be here 35 years, and if He want me to be here 35 more years on the part, I'll take it because I feel that I've already won. Because when I started, I'm doing exactly what I stated that I said I was going to do with it, and so if I don't do it anymore, I've won.
Okay. Well, listen, I don't want people to think you 35 years old.
Wait a
so
minute.
35 is how long you've been in business.
Correct.
Wow. And that is so impressive. So now we're going to take you back to North Memphis. You walk in the door, you see a little dude sitting there playing with his Tonka trucks.
And in the ditch too.
And you looked at him. It was young Odell Sanders.
Correct.
What would you say to him?
Hey, I would say, hey, keep moving, just like I did when we lived on Ash Street, down the street from Douglas Elementary and Douglas High School. Keep moving.
Keep moving.
Keep moving.
Okay.
I have no limits. I didn't have any limits then, and I don't have any limits now.
Wow. Does that come from your faith?
Faith, that's correct.
Okay. So listen, it's the last question. And I want you to look right in that camera right there. I want you to leave the individuals that are looking at this, consuming all the pearls of wisdom that you drop. Leave them with an Odellism or a Sandersism that they can take with them and say, man, I got that from Odell Sanders.
Well, one thing I would like to say is that you should know that Rome is not built in a night. It takes patience, discipline, endurance, and you will win. You will win if you want to win. But if you use those principles, you will see that you will win even more. And never put limits on anything. Never. When you limit something, you limit yourself.
Wow. Told you I was bringing you one of those iconic figures, man, that mean a lot to this city. I mean, a pioneer in the catering industry. Told you, brave, worthy, all of that, and blessed. I'm Larry Robinson, and for my brother, Odell Sanders.
Mr. Robinson?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your journey.
Thank you for having me.
Keep coming back. We're going to keep bringing them. Till the next time, peace. Thank you to our partners, the Delta Boulay. To hear more incredible stories like this, be sure to download the Kazukian app from the App Store or Google Play. Or check out the Journey Memphis podcast on all your major podcast providers. Also, check us out on the Kazukian Network.